Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the show. This is Jenga Njero. Now, today we have the Matchmaker show, and you understand the protocol here. Any other time we have a man on board, the man must be looking for a woman. In the same way, when we have a woman on board, that woman must be looking for a man. And because today we have a man, I will tell you the kind of woman he is looking for. But before then, if you're watching us for the first time, this is the Matchmaker show. We help men and women to get matches. And the moment they get the right ones, they meet their destinies. So you're not lost. If you're new to the show, subscribe, like the video, and don't forget to leave a comment. Also, the contacts of our guest will be on my Facebook page at Jenganjero. So you can follow Jenganjero on Facebook and you will be getting these updates in real time. Our guest on today's show is a 61-year-old man, single and searching. He has a very interesting story because how can deportation be a blessing in disguise? Our guest on today's show is Mr. Philip. Philip is a returnee, but not a returnee by choice. You see, when you go to the diaspora and come back on your own, within your own consent, or with your own consent, then you are a returnee. But if the government of that country takes you back to your country, then you are not a returnee. You are what? You are just a deportee, if there is such a word. Otherwise, you are deported. And there are people who are looking for greener pastures in the diaspora, in the US, in the UK, in Canada, in Europe, anywhere, in Gulf. There are so many people, even in other African countries, they are looking for greener pastures. That's why you leave your country to go and do better out there, because maybe you are able to do better out there than when you are in your own country. Mr. Philip is a 61-year-old man, single and searching. You could be asking yourself, why is he single? Has he ever been married before? And what kind of a woman is he looking for? Number one, he has never married and he doesn't have children either. Very interesting story. But before then, if you're watching us for the first time, remember to subscribe. We already hit the 30,000 subscribers mark. Okay? We are on a road, I don't know to where, but maybe the sky is the limit. The sky is not even the limit, it's the lower limit. You can do even better, even bigger. So if you are watching, you have not subscribed, hit it. Our guest on today's show, Mr. Philip, is a man who left his country 20 years ago. And I think apart from the US, these other countries is very difficult, especially in Europe. He was deported from France. And it is very difficult, I think, in some of these countries to attain citizenship. Yes, in every country, there is a constitution, especially in democracies. And in democracies, these countries have stipulated rules and regulations that qualify or disqualify one from being a citizen. And in Kenya, for example, there are ways through which one can be a citizen. You can be a Kenyan citizen by birth. You can be a Kenyan citizen by registration. You can be a Kenyan citizen by what? By naturalization. There are so many ways, but all of them, be they many or few, they are stipulated within the doctrine of our 2010 Constitution. And when he went there, he went with a visit visa. And you see, that visit visa is not like a work visa. People who have traveled know what I'm talking about. If you go to another country, that visa is bound to expire, especially if it is a travel visa. And Bwana Philip was just hide and seek kind of arrangement. He was living there, and he was not lucky to get papers. He was not able to get a connection of how one can be able to become a citizen. He was living in Paris, and Paris is France's capital. And one thing led to another. 4 years he was able to hide and seek, but later he was deported. He was caught, he was deported. You could be asking yourself, how did he become a blessing in disguise? When he came back, you see, there is something about people who travel. Whether those people are able to make money or not, there is something they learn, especially when you go to a bigger country than yours. When you go to a country that is more developed than yours, there is that aspect of exposure. There is that thing that opens your eyes. You are never the same. Whether you went there and made money or not, you can agree with me, nobody returns the same. There are people who even call them proud when they come back. But those people have opened their eyes. They have seen realities. A friend of mine who is also a friend of the show, when I start the next podcast, I'll be inviting him. His name is Pato. And he's a businessman. He's been to Japan and India, lived there, worked there. And he was telling me uh, when he was in Japan in the 90s, some of the levels of civilization they have there or they had then are what we are experiencing today. So you can imagine somebody who was there in the 90s, you see? So somebody who was there in the 90s, was it in the mid 90s? So almost 30 years later, that is where we are, where Japan was 30 years ago. Do you understand? So that person cannot be the same person. If that person goes there, works or lives there, he'd gone for education. You go there and live there for 2, 4, 6 years. You come back to your country, there are so many terrains you're able to shift. And that is exactly what happened to Bwana Philip. Bwana Philip realized that the food industry is not something you can joke with. It's something that can give you serious money, but when done with a lot of capital, when done with a lot of precision, with a lot of laws, regulations to be followed, with a lot of protocols, and with the right audience. Because after all, every business has target audience. You have your own niche. There are people you target. You're not sent for everybody. Even when you're a pastor, you remember the fivefold ministries in the Bible. Some for in the book of Ephesians, is it chapter 4 or chapter 5? The book of Ephesians, the Bible states that for some were called to be apostles, others teachers, some, apostles, teachers, there were pastors, evangelists, the fivefold ministries. And the Bible says that for the completeness of service, even when you're a pastor, you are not sent for everybody. There are pastors who major on deliverance. There are others who teach politely. Others, they are wild in the pulpit. Others are, you don't want to call it dramatic. Others are, there are so many ways through which one can dispense the word. At the same time, there are different ministries within the work of Christ for the completeness of service. There are people who are called for the children ministry. There are people who are called for ushering. There are people who are called for intercessory. There are people who preach the word. There are people who evangelize. There are people who are apostles. There are people who are called in the prophetic ministry. You see, that is why you are not called for everybody. Even in the industry of the food industry or in whatever industry, you have not been called for everybody. Okay? That's why even when some people leave, you don't care because you are not sent for them. Whoever was sent for them can look for them. Are we getting the point? So focus is very important. And that is what he realized. That when you are, there is a coffee shop, they don't do anything else. They are doing coffee. And once they do their coffee, everybody comes to them because of coffee. If they specialize on donuts day in, donuts day out, day in, day out. You getting my point? And that is how he was able to enter the food industry, and he's doing steak. You've seen what happens in Carnival. For those of you who have been in Carnival, for those of you who have been in Fogo Gaucho, you know what happens there. Steak, but the best. You're getting the point. So to be precise, he's in the food industry, and his deportation was a blessing in disguise. He is a man who has done well. He is doing very well. There is no need to hide. He says, if I want to attract the right people, I will say who I am. Broke people say they are broke. They don't hide. He says, and why should rich men say they are not rich? Whoever feels intimidated, he doesn't care. So if you're there and you're searching, and you remember he is 61, so you ask yourself, what kind of a woman is he looking for? Number one, Mr. Philip is looking for a woman who is between the ages of 49, listen carefully, and 55. So if you're within that window, you will get in touch. After this, I will post his contact on my Facebook page at Jenganjero. Okay? He is in the food industry, 49 to 55. Anywhere 48, anywhere 56, unauma nje. Are we together? Number two, he wants somebody who has developed some discipline in terms of time, in terms of energy, in terms of resources, in terms of everything. Like somebody who has a consistent kind of life. Those are some of the things he was able to learn there. He tells me that since he came back, he feels like a soldier. If he tells you he will be meeting you at 10 and you don't show up by 10, 10:01, he's leaving. That is the kind of discipline he was subjected to. And that is what he's practicing. And that culminates to his success, even as a businessman. So if you're there, you are single and you're searching, preferably somebody who has some education, at least somebody who's gone to high school, because he believes there's a lot to be done. There's still more land to be conquered. There's a lot that can be done together as a couple. And therefore, he's not only looking for somebody who can be a wife, but somebody they can work together, because he says he has a load of vision ahead of him. And if somebody got some education, maybe they would be in a better position to help them. We can only wish him well. He is 61 years old, single, and searching. A deportee from the country of France, lived there 4 years, came back, and it is well. He's never been married. He's looking for a wife for the very first time. What can we do? We can only wish him well. You could be asking, does he have problems with children? No, he doesn't. If you have children and those children are also open to the idea that your mother can get married, why not get in touch? Until then, this is Jenganjero. God bless you. Bye bye.